On this episode of Light on the Trail, I talk with PJ Izaguirre, the co-owner and race director with Tejas Trails. He tells us some history about the awesome night series, the Captain Carl's race, and so much more.
Evaluating the person that you are choosing to be on a daily basis with your runs, like making that attachment to your psyche by doing something physical, man, it's just such a healthy habit.
Okay, all right, we'll start off here. I am so graciously joined by PJ, Mr. Izaguirre. Close enough, right?
Yeah, close enough.
Very close. Thank you, sir. Taking some time out of his day here. You are, correct me if I'm wrong, like a co-owner and race director with Tejas Trails.
That's exactly right.
Awesome, man. Very cool. And oddly enough, or almost planned like I meant to do this, y'all just had one of your biggest races, the night run, the Captain Carl's, right?
Yes, Captain Carl's at Colorado Bend State Park.
The Colorado Bend was Saturday, and then I had just done the Sufferfest night run over here at Cedar Hill State Park. But so we both did these crazy night runs. But yours, let's talk about yours. How's your sleep so far? Have you gotten back on schedule? Did you have to stay up all through that, or?
Oh man, it was great. Like,
Yeah.
so there's just so much to do going into Friday because course marking was such a bear to get done, and so Saturday morning I was up by like 5:30, and on the trail by like 8. I did have to wrap up a little bit of things that I was like concerned because they had some of the trails closed because they bulldozed through some of it. So I just wanted to make sure that they didn't mess with anything else right before the race. I was checking intersections just so I had that peace of mind, so I could at least be honestly tell people that if something had happened where the park staff had messed with something or opened up trail when they had it closed all week, that I could honestly say, hey, I just saw it. You should be good. But thankfully, nothing changed. It was all good. So, yeah, all that to say, I didn't get to bed till 12:30 following day. So 5:30 to 5:30 is 24 hours, and then till 12:30. So yeah, about like 31 hours
it's
straight.
Like, yeah. My goodness, dude, awesome! What a way to work. Yeah,
it was a good time.
Right, it's that secondhand fun that people, you got to look back on it and like, well, I know it doesn't sound like fun, but it was really cool. Like, it was fun. But
I tell you what, man, it feels like an ultra itself. Like it's crazy. I don't know. The whole week itself is just pretty demanding, especially with the heat.
Yeah.
But all that to say, once you get to like the race day, it feels like a victory lap. Like you're still running, but it's all like fun and all this
kind
energy
of coming together.
Yeah. So,
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, I bet that is a pretty big buildup of like, been planning for this, and now you're out there and you're setting everything up, and like for all these people to come do it, and then it's working. They're actually doing it, and everything's going along, and they're like, all right, yeah. And then you gotta, and then cleaning up, of course.
Oh my gosh, I'm still working on that. If I'm being honest, it's just such a big loop, and the park is huge, and I had an interview on Monday right after the race, so then that delayed communication with some things and just delayed a lot of other cleanup stuff that could have happened. Like, it's crazy. I'm so thankful for volunteers because when you don't have them, it's just like that much harder to get things done. And time adds up, right? Like, you have 3 people for 20 minutes. That's an hour worth of work, and then you miss 1 hour and you had 7 to 10 people. That's, several hours of work just gone in the blink of an eye. So it's like, oh man, like,
crucial.
They're so valuable. So I'm just like, man, but it's all good. I also really enjoy just spending time out in the woods. So all good there.
Awesome. Yes, it's such a big job, and I was going to ask you. I had this on my little list here, but something I'm always interested in is so what? Yeah, what makes a good volunteer?
Um, man, uh, that's a really good question. My favorite volunteers are the ones that like just don't have any expectation as far as like what their responsibilities are. Like people that are flexible can kind of just um, go with the flow or whatever. Um, and most of the volunteers are like that. But then on the flip side of that, it's really cool when someone's like, "I'm really good at this. You put me there, I'm gonna shine." And then like you let them do their thing, and you don't have to think about it. Um,
Yeah,
so that's really fun too. But yeah, I guess just someone that's flexible. That's probably like the best quality to have as a volunteer.
that makes sense. I would think, especially with such a big, a race in general, but then such a big one, if someone's just there to be like, "Hey, yeah, like whatever you need, I'm here to help. I understand the situation. Just put me, yeah, just to help and have a body somewhere, like go grab water or just whatever it is, and be happy." And
Yeah, I mean, as far as logistics go, there's a lot of different tasks that go into putting on a run, and a lot of different little responsibilities that volunteers can take on. Anywhere from like being a course marshal to marking trail to, just handing out T-shirts. Like they're all essential, right? But it's like
yeah,
personality definitely plays into every one of those roles, and you don't want to mismatch those. So it's like it's good to engage with a volunteer before, you know, making them or not making them, but putting them in a spot where they're not necessarily going to shine as um, bright as if they were doing something they really enjoyed.
yeah. So with that, all this going on, and it's such a big event with the Captain Carl. But you have, isn't there another one in like 2 weeks?
3 weeks. Yeah, that's what makes them really tough to get the challenge done. So there's like a challenge for the series where if you do all four and you complete them, all four 60Ks throughout the summer, you get a buckle at the end. And one of the biggest components that makes that so difficult is recovery because you still feel so beat up after each one. It's like a beating on top of a beating on top of a beating on top of a beating. So it just wears on the body, especially with this summer heat. You always feel depleted. You always feel like you're never gonna grow your toenails back. There's just it's rough. There's not a lot of people that get it done.
Yeah, that was my next question. Now, how often does somebody, or how many of those challenges get completed every year?
Um, so last year was the most I've ever seen, and there was right around a dozen that got it done, and it was
Wow.
also the most amount of participants we've ever had in it. Like
Okay.
the year before that, I think it was half. I think there were like six, and then the year before that, I think it was kind of. I don't think there were any because of COVID. I can't remember what had happened, but at that also during that time, I wasn't as involved. I wasn't the owner at the time, so um, be interesting to go look further into the history because I don't think it's ever been more than 8 until last year.
Okay, because that's something, when I was kind of digging into this, and when I was looking for night races, that's one I think it's just location. I was looking at a lot of that one. I'd love to go to Bend and run it there. The one I just did Saturday was just closer to where I live, but I was really looking at that and checking it out, and it looked like an awesome one. And then I saw the Captain Carl's challenge, and I was like, there's always that, like, that sounds bananas, but it'd be really cool if I could do that. Yeah, like that sounds like a good challenge.
Yeah, well, I mean,
Yeah, it's cool.
that park itself is probably one of my favorite in Texas just because the geography of it changes so much. Like, you're in open prairie, you're on riverside, you're on creeks, you get some views, where you can see just all across hill country. It feels like, you're kind of in the mountains or, whatever we get to call mountains,
Yeah,
right? But
exactly.
you get that feeling just because you can see so far in some spots of the park. And then Gorman Falls is very beautiful. Not in the summer just because it's so dry, but We also have another race called Tanajas in February, and the creeks are flowing, the river's a lot higher, so it's just a very beautiful park, man. So if you're interested, you should check it out, man.
Definitely.
It feels like an adventure. You run past caves and stuff too.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've heard nothing but good things about the park down there and how awesome it is and everything. So that'd be a great way to experience the park as well.
Mm-hmm.
So have you ever ran the Captain Carl's?
Only the 10 and 20K series. Because for as long as I've been participating in it, I've also volunteered. That's how I started with Tejas Trails as a volunteer. I'd run whatever distance was closest to half marathon, so that I'd still have some legs to help with tearing down the course, and then I would just put more miles once the event was over. So I always felt like I'd kind of be doing a disservice if I was like hopping into any distance longer than that, because I knew I wouldn't want to volunteer after if I didn't have some juice left over,
That's very how nice of you. Yeah, very good. Do you get and I'm glad you brought that up. I was going to ask how you got started with Tejas Trails. So we'll go. If I can ask you, uh, if you were a runner before, or how long have you been a runner, and then how did that progress with you joining as or helping with a volunteer at Tejas, and how have you become where you are now with them?
Yeah, so I started running when I was in 7th grade. To keep it kind of short, I ran in high school cross country and track, and then I ran in college cross country and track. Going into my junior year, I transferred universities, walked on to the university I transferred to. I competed for 1 year, and team dynamic was really different. So I decided that I wasn't going to run my senior year, but I still loved running and I still loved competing. So I was doing a ton of like local races and winning a lot of them. But I was kind of getting tired because they were all in the same places. They were like, there's one park and there's like 20 different races at that same park throughout the year. Like there wasn't a lot to see where I grew up and at the university I was going to. And then I had a professor that I would always see at these runs. She wasn't even my professor, but she was just a professor on campus I would see pretty frequently. And we became Facebook friends, and she had open invites to all these runs, local runs. And then she sent out an invite saying, like, hey, I'm going to this trail run. It's very scenic. The company will provide lodging and food. For anyone who wants to catch a ride, just shoot me a message. And that lady, her name's Donna Pazera, and we just became really good friends. And there's another guy who also hopped on. His name's Austin, and we all had a really good time. She was the captaining an aid station, just showing us the ropes, and we started with the overnight shift, so we drove 6 hours from the border to Rock Springs, and at 9 p.m. is when we got there, and then we just started running the aid station from 9 p.m. to 6 a.m.
Yeah.
So that was pretty sweet. Yeah, like right into it, and I was just like, "What do we do?" It's
Dude,
awesome.
Yeah, that's a way to that's a way to do it. Is that how it was that with Tejas Trails? How is that what Donna was talking about, or is that okay?
Yeah,
Okay.
it was with Tejas Trails. That was the first year they had that particular race, and they had named it after the previous owners, Joe and Joyce Mercedes. So that race is called J&J.
Okay, I was just looking at that one too on the events there, and I was wondering, I wonder who they are. Who's Joe and Joe? Yeah, okay.
Yeah, the original owners of Tejas Trails. They started it back in early 2000.
Gotcha. Oh, okay, very cool. That's awesome. Y'all have and there seems to be a lot of history with everything, and they've really got a good foundation on what Tejas Trails is kind of building and all that. I thought I had read it on here and I was looking for it. I'm just kind of looking at the website. It might have been something else where I read it. Is there something about the Captain Carl's being like a long time night run, or like the first in Texas or something like that?
Yeah, it's the longest night trail series in the nation.
Nation.
It's the longest running. Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, that's what I thought. I don't know where I saw that from, but thank you for confirming that. Yeah, that's so cool, man. Right, and then you're such a part of that now.
Yeah, it's crazy. People will ask me about it and stuff, and like they'll see like shirts, they'll like recognize the logo, and even out of state, it's crazy. Like, oh yeah, like I've heard about that. And it's wild. Like, I didn't realize how popular it was or how well known it was in like the ultra community until like this past year, because even going out of state to different runs and seeing friends and just running into people, like it's crazy. It's crazy.
Right.
That it gets recognized.
You're part of that and helping and spreading everything.
Yeah, it was so funny. Today there's this guy. He's like, "Hey, like I was near a store that was by the event, and he's like, "Oh, so you're the captain?" I was like, "No, I'm just trying to carry on the legacy and carry the name, keep it going for as long as I can." He's like, "Oh, so you're just first mate, huh?" And it's like, just being funny, but
clever.
It's wild. He had ran it back in 2008, and that just sounds insane. 15 years ago, and he was just like telling me about it when he first started running it.
Yeah. That's been a while for sure. Is there a particular history about it? Like, why is it called that, or why is it a night run, or did they just want to make something cool and difficult?
Cool and difficult, but I mean, it's just the spirit of the individual is named after, right? I didn't personally know Captain Carl, and he passed away well before I even knew about him. But the original owner of these events and the one who started the night series, his name is Brad Quinn, and his wife is named Nyla, and her dad is Captain Carl. And from what I know of Captain Carl, he was just like that type of person that could motivate you to do anything, motivate you to believe in yourself, get the job done, and in his own special way. And I don't know, I'm sure you can think of someone in mind who's done that for you, but from what I know, he's done that for so many people, so it only seems appropriate that these events be named after him, right? Because what these events are, in like the grand scheme of things, is an opportunity, right? Like, opportunities are like essentially gateways to something bigger, right?
Yes.
And like it can be good, it can be bad, but you get to choose, right? And like, I feel honored to be a part of that. Like, just something that can lead people to, for one, find out what they can do for themselves and grow and find strength. Like, it's been a really awesome thing to just help put together.
Yeah,
keep going.
That's so awesome. That's something I talk about a lot on here. And if I quote scripture, which I have like in a segment, which just kind of perfectly goes into this, but is like, that's something I get a lot out of running. Is it's simple because it's just running, right? But it can be so much more, and it's like time to yourself mentally. You can push yourself. Like that was again the one I just ran. That's the longest I've ever ran. And you explain it to people, and they're like, "Well, that sounds hard," but like, yeah, like I wanted to do something hard, something challenging, and then reading y'all's the mission statement on through Tejas Trails. It says this was like perfect. It says to selflessly offer incredibly fun, family oriented, beautifully scenic, God honoring, and challenging endurance events that better people's lives.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, just better yourself, better your life through pushing. If you can go get to things that like you weren't sure you could do, and then you do them, you're like, holy cow! Like, how much more is available? And I had talking about this with someone else who I hold really dear to me. She's like another mom. She actually sent me this verse, right? So it's 2 Timothy chapter 1 verse 7, which says, "For God has not given us a spirit of fear and timidity, but power, love, and self-discipline." Right. So it's like being self-disciplined enough and just having the power to do stuff or push yourself, right, and get through things. I was like, that's so perfect. Like, oh man, I'm gonna talk to him about this. And I just read the mission statement with that. But that's so cool.
That's
and
awesome.
it's such a like simple but not simple, but it like to me it just makes so much sense of like you can do so much when you try to do so much, you know, or like to just better
Yeah.
yourself with whatever it is. If you know, it's great. So I'm sure yeah, being a part of that and just helping with every little thing and getting to me. I'm sure you've met all kinds of people, and I'm sure you hear people tell you
Oh yeah.
stories of how awesome they feel after this, and I'm sure you've got regulars and everything. That's awesome, man. That's so cool.
Man, one thing that I saw at this race, like um I was kind of being interviewed at the race, and they were asking me all these questions, and one of the things they had asked me is like how long do I see myself doing this, right? And I was like, till the wheels fall off, baby. Like, I'm trying to do this for the rest of my life, but you know, like we'll see
Yeah,
how it goes, right? But the reason I say that is because like it's just so inspiring, right? One thing I had to mention to them, that I'll mention to you is that this lady came up to me and she's like, I just want to let you know, like, we love these races, and we love them so much. I've been doing them for so long that my dad, and the lady was probably like in her mid 40s. Dad was 73. Um, her husband was 45, and her son was 17. Son was running 30K. Dad was running um, the 20K, and then the grandpa was running the 10K. So it's just like literally like inspiration being passed on generation to generation, and them
yeah,
seeing the value of what like running can do, and it's just like so like freaking cool to see that like in the family dynamic, which is like essentially what I'm trying to do, right? Like I'm trying to create this sense of community, this sense of like care that you would get from a family, and just so that people can believe these things can be done,
yeah,
right? And it's just like that's like the epitome of what I'm trying to create, just in a really tight, on a lot tighter scale, you know. So it's just
yeah.
really neat.
That's so cool. Yeah, I would definitely think that could be highly contagious, and you wouldn't want to leave that seeing, you know, seeing how well you're affecting people positively and what they're getting out of it. And then, right, you see a whole family that's doing it and growing from it, enjoying it. That's so awesome. What, a as you like, as a race director, then, so what would you call, what's a good race when something, you know, like nobody gets hurt and everybody finishes, or like what do you call, or what are your point of view is a good race?
There's like, oh man, there's a lot of factors that go into it, but like essentially, are people being taken care of, right? Like if I were to do it the most simple way, and for me, what does being taken care of look like? Do they have everything necessary to answer any questions that someone might have to get the job done, right? So if someone asks, how do I get rid of cramps? And they don't have an answer, that's like a point down. If they say like, what can I do to hydrate? And they don't have water, that's like 10 points down, you know, or like, my goal was this time. Do you have time? Like, you know, like that's like, you know, so it's like all these little things, but um, yeah, I think that just comes with experience, right? Like like you can't please everyone, but you can make everyone feel taken care of. And I think the way you do that is by communicating. So as long as you set the expectation, you tell people this is what the run is going to be, and this is what we got for you. We wish you the best. Let us know what we can do for you. Um, and then if someone's like, hey, like I wanted grilled cheese, well, the expectation was that we weren't going to have grilled cheese, so like, you know, you shouldn't feel bad about that, right? But again, as long as you're communicating and saying like, hey, I do have an answer for you. We have this other, um, we have X that will supplement you even better than a grilled cheese, right? Like we have a goo or a bar or whatever, you know, like just making people feel like they're taken care of, right? And that just comes like that can only really happen at a personal level and like of communication, right? Like the more you
Yeah.
talk to people, the easier it is to make happen. And obviously with bigger events, that's even harder. But that's where you learn how to take care of your volunteers. And if you take care of your volunteers, your runners are guaranteed to be taken care of. So it's like
Right. Yeah.
just that care.
That makes sense. If you can, you can't make everybody happy, but if you can do what you can do to equip right everyone there that's helping properly, connect the dots, and just be very hospitable, and have a smile
Yeah.
on your face and try to take care of everything, and just bring it to the people so they can give it their all. I'm sure
Mm-hmm.
it's stressful to say the least, but you can do all you can do.
Man, I only ever really feel stressed about the course, and I only ever feel like so funny. I know I had mentioned that I listened to your podcast with Briston,
Yeah.
and man, when I was volunteering for him, he had mentioned like, dude, the most stressful thing is just waiting for that first person to get back to the finish line.
Oh, so they
Because that,
found all the markers and stuff, and
yes,
oh,
because
okay.
it confirms that you made the course properly and they were able to follow it and get back to you. But like up until then, you're like, oh man, like please make it, please make it. Like me personally, I'm like asking each aid station, let me know what time he came through. Okay, good, he got there. Okay, next aid station, let me know what time he came through. Okay, he got there. And then I'm like, hey, he should be there. Like if he hasn't gotten there in 10 minutes, like let me know and I'm gonna be on my way. And then like 2 minutes later, he's like, hey, he got here. I'm like,
Oh,
okay, good. Like it's just
that's so
that's like
yes.
the only stressful thing that like gets me. But again, once one lap is covered, I'm like, all right, time to enjoy the event.
I have a that's I totally this goes right with this is perfect. On my race, this was my thought too. I was thinking that like I bet they were so stressed out because I ended up running with like two guys named Brad and Michael, and it was 3 laps for the race we did, and we got back on the second lap, and I hadn't met them until halfway through the second lap. Anyway, so we get back and start, and I'm going straight. You're supposed to go straight back over the timing mat, go stop at the aid station if you wanted to, then go back through it, or you go
Yeah, that's
around.
exactly the setup that I had too.
Yeah, and so we get there, and he starts walking off to the right, and I was like, kind of look at it, I'm like, what? And then these people, like I think one of them was the director. So he's like, hey, come over, and they're just like immediately like, are you Brad? He's like, yeah. So I think they were watching on the tracking that it showed that this Brad guy had been out for 4 or 5 hours and hadn't made a lap yet because he didn't cross the timing mat. So they were
Mm.
really worried about Brad, and they're like, "Oh, you're okay. Okay, he's here. Like, just make sure you go." Yeah, I was like, "Oh, I bet they were freaking out." Yeah. So
Yeah, man. That's another thing, right? Like, that can be stressful too. I mean, it is stressful when you have people on course that like DNF or
yeah,
want to DNF, don't have a way to get. Yeah, man, that can be pretty scary. Just again, it's like, how do you care for someone that's in the middle of the woods and has no way of communicating to you, especially in like a remote park like Colorado Bend?
yeah,
So
yeah. But that's also the
racetrack
appeal.
problems.
Yeah, the appeal for some people,
Oh
right,
yeah,
is
it is.
like, yeah, oh, it's gonna be way out there in the
Really
middle of
makes it feel like an
nowhere.
adventure.
Yeah, two in the morning, I might get lost. I'm like, please don't. Yeah. Is Colorado Bend one of your what's like your favorite location?
So I know we just talked about them, but J and Colorado Bend, like I wouldn't be able to pick between both of those, but they're both probably my favorite.
Yeah, is it just the it's more southern and west, right? So it's kind of more uh, desert
Um,
ish, dry, but like very Texas X.
no, actually, so J&J, which is in Rock Springs, about an hour past Kerrville, is it is West Texas, but you're not in that dry, barren part of Texas just
Oh,
yet.
okay, yeah,
There's like a lot of like hills, and it really feels like hill country, even though it's kind of far from it. And there's a river that runs right through the middle of the venue. It's at this Christian camp called Camp Eagle. Just super gorgeous, man. And the water's always cold, so it's like so nice to hop in. Like,
yes.
and yeah, the staff there is incredible. They even like help take over aid stations. Like, it's insane. Like, it's just such a well supported event, which is so ironic because it's like our smallest one. Like, 200 or 250 people will come out to that one. And most of our other races are right around 400. And same thing with Colorado Bend. Just because it's far out from most, way further out than most other places that we have races at. That's definitely a factor. But man, so beautiful. I love it.
Yeah, that's got that's exactly what I've heard about with the Colorado Bend area. Is just it's so nice. There's a something that's kind of piqued my interest is FKT trails. So looking for the fastest known times,
Oh.
and there's only a handful of them in Texas, right? Compared to like Colorado, where there's hundreds, pretty much. But one of them is there at the Bend National Park, or I was going to say the Big Bend, yeah. Um, so that again, that's something I'm like, well, that'd be a good reason to go out there just to check out the trail and do that, and make a whole vacation about it. And it's just gotta
Yeah.
convince the wife to do so as well. But yeah, I always hear nothing but good things. I'd love to see more of the state, and that's something else I think it's so cool about y'all are making a good example of just being a good company where it's like, hey, we're cool, come be cool with us, push yourself, all right, high five, like congratulations. And it's just that kind of trail runner uh, mentality that I've gathered, just like everybody just there to do good and push themselves and be outside, right? And it's contagious, but it's so nice. Uh, what and with being, I know you mentioned you don't get to run like the long distances with the Tejas Trail since you're obviously working during those times. Uh, do you how has that limited you at all if you've wanted to go run other places, or like how competitive, or do you run like a whole lot, or what's some like running goals of yours you're trying to do?
So man, I honestly, until recently had been pretty fried with running. I was so like, um, analytical about my running all throughout high school and college. Like, I would weigh myself before and after every meal and every run, and
Oh,
I was always like doing the math on how much hydration I should be on. Like um, and I kind of got worn out. Like, I told myself I'm gonna stick with this for 1 year, my senior year, and see what I can do. And um, then I got to like having more fun with it. Um, all that to say, I've kind of gotten away from running just because I've been getting into more race directing, and now I'm like, I just feel like I've kind of run into this other issue mentally where it's like I kind of have imposter syndrome. Like, I feel like I almost don't deserve to have this position. So like the best thing I can do is just keep finding ways to serve others so that I feel more deserving. And I don't know if that's even like the right mentality to have about it, but it does help me feel like I can run free a little bit more. Um, and like one of the major things that makes me feel more connected to my running is volunteering.
yeah.
So literally that's where I met Briston, because I was volunteering for his race. And man, did you say you were at Sufferfest?
Yeah, Sufferfest from Blazing Trails.
Yeah. So do you know Ashley Forshee?
No, I don't think I do.
So well, anyway, another friend of mine, her name's Ashley Forshee. She's a race director too. And she just put on her very first run, and I went to go volunteer for her, and it was such a good time. It just makes me feel like, all right, like, I really am serving this community I care about. So that makes me feel like I should be putting in more miles, because I want to be a good example, like, to others. And on top of that, I for one, I think like it you should at least have enough capacity to
do what you're directing,
take care of
yeah,
not only do what you're directing, but serve the demands of what it entails, right? So if I am putting on a run where someone could potentially be 6 miles away from me and the only way to get to them is to run, then I need to be able to hammer out 6 hard miles to get to them as quick as possible. And I've had to do that on several occasions and actually found them. And, like, it was very necessary for me to be there. And, man, like at Bandera one year, I had to carry, it wasn't that heavy, like, thank goodness, because had it been like 1 or 2 pounds heavier, I probably wouldn't have been able to get to that person. But I had to carry like this plastic stretcher for someone who had broke their ankle. And
whoa,
I was hauling, dude, and I was so tired. I only had to go 2 miles, but carrying, extra couple pounds for 2 miles just hauling, I was gassed, and I was like, man, like, and that's because I've been putting in like at least 40 miles a week. And like I feel like not only would I be doing a disservice to myself, but it definitely a disservice to like the people that I'm putting on a race for. Like, part of caring for people is making them feel safe. And if your race director can't even take care of you in an emergency situation, then like, how are you even going to trust them?
Yeah, that's a good.
So
That's in that right in a situation like that. If it does something serious does kind of happen, or someone does break an ankle, and they just like get over the radio or something, they're like, "Oh, hey PJ, I need you to take this stretcher 2 miles that way, and you got to do it now, and you got to do it like 5 minutes ago." Like, you're okay, right? You have to be able to kind of answer whatever comes your way and do that. That's I'm sure your heart rate was jacked, being excited, but in a bad, not necessarily a
oh
good
my
way, but
gosh,
crazy. Yeah.
so funny in that specific situation. Like, when we finally got her on the stretcher and we were about to start carrying her, we got a little. We had 8 guys total with us, but like initially there was just 3, and then 3 more came along, and then 2 more came along, like 10 minutes and ten
Oh,
minutes
okay.
later. So then when we started carrying her, there were 6 of us holding the stretcher, and then 2 rotating in. And I was so gassed from running that like I was switching like every like 2 minutes. I was like, all right, like I'm tapping out, like someone else coming. Like, I was just so like gassed. I was like, oh man, like not only do I need to work on my running, but I probably need to like start doing more push-ups, man. Like,
Oh man.
but man,
I'm sure she was
good time
happy.
because she felt like well taken care of. Yeah, yeah. I
Exactly.
mean,
Yeah. I'm sure she appreciated it. Yeah.
yeah. I don't even know that she was 10 minutes alone by like because it was word of mouth. Someone told someone, and then
Oh.
that got to us pretty fast. And
Okay.
then we got to her. So like, she always had someone with her, and that event is so big that people would have kept seeing her.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think from the time that it happened to the time that we had her in the stretcher was probably like 20 minutes.
Okay. Yeah, and that's again with it being kind of a remote area and just getting out there and doing what you got to do. But that's awesome. Yeah, people just communicating again, kind of that morality and communication with everybody, and that kind of vibe of all the trail runners. I'm sure everyone just kind of got with the program and got a hold of who they could tell to tell you to tell whatever, and y'all kind of acted quick in the situation. Yeah, I bet there's a handful of stories like that hopefully don't happen that
Oh
often, but
yeah,
yeah, it's something that can happen. That's kind of the nature of the animal with all that stuff.
man. I don't hope that they happen, right? But it feels like there's always one per race.
Oh,
Like,
really?
there's always something per race. It's like, which that doesn't sound like a lot, but it feels like a lot.
Oh, yeah.
Um,
Yeah, that's a major thing. My again from the Sufferfest, the buddy I came with, um, he we think it was around maybe the second lap, almost just right halfway through. He said he kicked a rock really hard, and then I caught back up to him before that. And I was like, "Oh, hey Jeff, what are you doing?" He's like, I need to take it easy for a second." And then we met back up at the aid station. But then he kind of told me as we were running, and we finished it off together. And he's like, I just kicked a couple, rock really hard, and we got back to the car. And he starts taking off his shoe, and he's like, I'm kind of worried about this, and it's black and swollen. And he sent a picture the next morning. Anyway, it was definitely broken. So the guy's an animal, and he finished like 16 miles on a broken toe in the dark, all
awesome.
that. And he was just like, oh boy, but he did it. And he just, persevered through it. And he said it surprisingly doesn't hurt that bad. It's just really sore now. But again, I'm sure it was
I just numb.
Yeah, oh a mixture.
That's painful, man. Like, yeah.
Yeah, I'm surprised.
Your buddy is tough.
He just got through it and was doing it. He's not 50 yet. He's 49. He'll be 50, in a few months or so. But he was getting it done, and it was a lot of fun. And that's
the culmination of the old man strength. I don't think 50 is that old, but you start doing tough things and believing in yourself. You start becoming that old tough guy.
Yeah, I think he told me some of the Masters series started like 45 or something. Age groups, and I was like, 45 for Masters? Is that what do you know?
Yeah, I mean, in my mind, especially that like 50.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but like in my head, that doesn't. 45 sounds way younger than 50, but I don't think 45 is that old. Like,
yeah, no, me either.
I don't know. Especially like seeing people on the trail. Like, a lot of people don't even get started till they're like mid 30s, mid 40s. Yeah. And a lot of people that win are their early 40s. It's crazy.
That's something that I noticed pretty quickly too. I had done running for a little bit in kind of another sport, and then stopped and did something else. And then this year I was kind of getting back into it. And so I did my first marathon this year and got more involved with all that, and was kind of more interested in the endurance side of stuff, and mostly trail running, just for it to be that appeals to me more than being on like the road, but being like outside and in the woods and having to handle the terrain and everything. And that's something I noticed with the age, that there's plenty of people that have been doing this for a long time, and they're still like a top level like athlete, and it's like, he's 65, he's 66, or she's, but and they're still just rocking and rolling and just getting miles done, and you're like, that's inspiring. Yeah, like, it's so cool.
Yeah, I completely agree. And it's also like makes you hopeful, right? Like, oh, like that person's doing that at 60 plus, like hopefully I will be too,
Yeah, exactly, man. Definitely here. So, well, before we close off, what I like to ask, is there some just off the wall kind of questions? How often, which I know we were just kind of talking about, like running, and it's hard to do, depending on what we're doing, but what about, it's like a joke within runners, but like, how often would you say you get like a strength training day in?
So I feel like every 3 weeks, because like
carrying everything around and loading stuff up.
It's just a big old week-long ruck session. Like, it feels like nothing but strength. I'm like, the other day, like 2 or 3 days before the race, so it had to be like Tuesday or Wednesday, I like lie down on my bed after taking a shower, and then I started to stretch, and then I started cramping from my back, and then I turned and I rolled on to like this ball that I have for my cat.
Oh.
And then like it made my biceps start to cramp, and so I was cramping from my back and my arm, and then I stand up and then my foot starts to cramp, and I'm just like cramping in 3 places at the same time. Like, oh my gosh, it's like, full body workout.
Oh, dude,
it feels like it, man. So
that's
it's like
torture.
In between, I'm like, so like in a sense, I'm just trying to recover too in between events. I'm trying not to push myself too hard.
Yeah, if you're awake for 31 hours or over 30 hours, yeah.
Yeah. So,
I got you. Is there and then just to hear at the end, is there anything? I know y'all got, y'all are busy. Of course, you can go online to their website and see their events coming up. Is there one that's special to you, or is someone going to see you at every single one? Is that you have to travel all around Texas to get to them, or?
So me and Chris work together, but I RD for him for all of his races. And his first race starts in September, and that one is a lot of fun because it sits on a lake and it's at Pace Bend State Park. And that one's special to me because I ran a marathon there on my birthday when I turned 26, and it was miserable. Like I run a 3.5 hour marathon before, and that one took me like 8 hours and 15 minutes. It was so.
Dude.
I ran the first half. I ran the first half in 2:15, so it took me 6 hours to do a half marathon. And I've run under 1:30 like several times for a half. So like by far the longest half marathon, or like the longest amount of time to do a half marathon. And I was fading, like I was seeing black on the sides of my eyes. And I was at mile 16 and I was like, why am I doing this to myself on my birthday? Like, this is so dumb. Like, I can just step off the course. The road is right there. It'd take me 10 minutes to walk to the start. And then like I had another voice in my head. It was like, I can't believe you just said that. Now we're doing it.
Yes.
Now we're doing it. You heard that other side? That guy's gone. I'm here. We're finishing it. And I was like, oh. So I just like that conversation with myself is just so fresh. Like it never left. So like I told myself, you just spoke to the version of yourself that's a quitter. And that's out the window. He's gone. You're not a quitter. This is not you. It's not in your nature to quit. Go, keep moving. If you die, so be it. I was just like, oh. And I kid you not, I was taking like 10 to 15 steps, finding a rock, sitting on it for like 2 minutes, 3 minutes, getting my breath, like catching my breath, and then just kept going on repeat, which is why it took me so long. But yeah, I've only ever had a race that bad that one time. And yeah, like I've run further and longer and never struggled like that. But it was just the heat. And yeah,
Holy
I mean,
cow.
I love that course. I've had so much fun on that course, but that particular time, just like I said, it stays fresh in my mind. It's helped me like grow in times of adversity.
Yes.
I'm like, all right, like switch that, flip that switch in your mind. That person that wants to quit doesn't exist right now. You're doing it till it's done.
Right, and it's like ammunition now, right? So it's happened before. You can tell this story now, and now you're the guy that didn't quit, and you've not quit before. So don't start now, and just keep going through it. Yeah, that's good stuff.
Ammunition. That's a really good word for it, because that's exactly what it is. You just bring in the gun, right?
Yeah.
Like you just let's go.
Yeah. Pull that little trick out, and just I do the same thing if I, for a second, like, man, this is tough. I'm like, really tough? That's what you signed up for? Like, oh, everything's gonna be tough. Don't be complaining, And it's like, all right, yeah.
Yeah. I get
awesome,
it.
Dude. Thank you so much for your time here, PJ. Is there anything you wanted to ask me, or anything you want to talk about, y'all sponsors, or where people can find you, or Tejas Trails, or anything they need to know?
Yeah, there's a handful of things you just mentioned, but man, I really like to get to know you. Like, man, it's so cool that you're doing this and sharing people's stories. I think that's like such a high value thing to do. Like, every culture has like, that one person in the community that shares stories, and they're just, they're seen as a high value individual. And I think what you're doing is really important. So for one, just like, why did you start this podcast, and like, why reach out to people?
Yeah, well, awesome. Thank you, man. I do really appreciate that. Yeah, like I kind of mentioned, starting this year, I got back into running, and I was actually arm wrestling for like 2 years before that, because I was going to school and I couldn't commit that much time like I used to do when I was running, and it was just something totally different that I'm not used to. But I actually, in one of my first episodes, it kind of talks about it. Uh, I was getting back into running, and then also kind of spiritually, I was thinking about starting a podcast again to help. I have a degree in like audio production and stuff, so I wanted to stay sharp and savvy with the audio stuff, obviously, and in podcasting, I always think is awesome, like radio. And so I actually fasted for 3 days, considering it and asking God about it. And I thought, like, why don't I mix like a little bit of, however I word it in like the description on the podcast, but it says that it's like, let's talk about trail running, and with a little bit of like God's word sprinkled in. So I kind of bring him in. And because during when I run, I usually like pray a lot, especially like on the Sufferfest. If it's a long run, I'll just be like, try not to trip and like, that's a pretty flower. Lord, thank you for that pretty flower, and let me have a positive outlook on this. All right, keep going. And since I kind of had a fresh perspective as like a beginner, I think that's important because I know when someone starts something, whatever it is, you're kind of looking for like that point of view. It's hard to hear someone talk when they've been doing something for 20 years and you can't pick up the lingo, or you don't know, like, well, they don't think how I think now because they've been doing it for 20 years. Like, so I'm like, well, I'm fresh at this. Let me just do this and mix it in. So that's kind of that's pretty much the direction I'm trying to go. Help spread the fun, and how like we were mentioning, how much like running can help people grow and be outside, and both like physically and like spiritually and everything. Yeah.
Oh man, that's awesome, dude. I mean, haven't heard. I haven't heard in a while someone doing that, but praying during your run. Oh my gosh, man, I haven't heard someone say that they do that, and like that was I did that a lot in high school just because I felt like, I mean, I guess most teenagers are a little more emotional. Like you're just going through so much and you're
Dealing with
growing
a
real
lot.
fast.
Yeah.
So like I remember I prayed so much, and it was a good habit because like whenever uh I just like would feel thankful about so many things, and just like think about like why they mean so much to me on runs. And then I'd like get away from running and like, oh man, I haven't been running, and then like I'm not I'm not like engaging in those same habits, and I'm like, oh, like, you know what, like I haven't been, you know, being introspective about the things that matter to me and the things I'm thankful for, and it's because I haven't been running. And then I start running, and I'm like, hey, I used to like think about these things when I would run, and like I would even like journal more often when I run consistently, and it's like all those things, man, like just um evaluating the person that you are choosing to be on a daily basis, with your runs, like making that attachment to your psyche
Yeah.
by doing something physical. Man, it's just such a healthy habit, and it's just cool to hear that you're doing that, man. That's such like a good thing.
I appreciate it. Yeah, I think it's definitely it's interesting too that we're kind of mentioning that. My last episode, it's kind of what I focused it on, was like being optimistic, but realistic about what you can do, but have that as like your foundation to just like, if you kind of start off on a good leg, just try to stay positive and know you're already doing right good. Like you're saying, like you had the story where you didn't quit, so you have to just notice those situations where it's like, am I going to be the person that does this, or am I going to, or am I not? And not to say it's not easy all the time, or it can be hard, but try to the more positive mindset you have, I think it like leaks into everything else and helps everything else be more gracious, or positive of what you're doing, run or work or whatever it is.
Yeah, man. Yeah. Totally agree.
Right on, man. Awesome, bud. Yeah, again, I appreciate you so much. Yeah, anything.
Likewise, man. Thank you so much for having me, dude.
Awesome. Yeah, we'll definitely have to do again. I'll catch up with you, and yeah, we'll see where it goes. Again, thank you so much, bud. We'll catch you again, and I don't know, the best of good luck in 3 weeks when you got to do it again.
Well, what do you got coming up? What's next on your calendar?
Oh boy, yeah. Actually, I don't have anything scheduled just yet. I'm thinking about, like we were talking about FKTs. Part of that Sufferfest portion of it is of an FKT. It goes from the Cedar Hill State Park to the Cedar Hill Preserve to Cedar Hill, or Big Cedar, which is like a mountain bike course, into like a little park. It sounds like a lot. It's only 20 miles one way, and so it has a record for one way and back. So also a 40-mile portion of it. So that's been like creeping into my bucket list of stuff to do, and my buddies are kind of egging me on to do it, because that'd be really cool. Nice. So I'm thinking about doing attempting that maybe in like October, November or something. But yeah, I will definitely have to do me at Captain Carl's and come meet you in person.
Yeah, man. Let me know. I'm happy to get you set up with that.
Awesome. Thank you so much, PJ.
Likewise, man.